Hello everyone, welcome to another video brought to you by DJI Enterprise. This is Ron from Solutions Engineering team, and today's video I am going to cover the DJI Modify software. So specifically on the LiDAR data post-processing end. So currently I have the DJI Modify software opened. This is a scan collected from the Zenmuse L3 scanner. Which was processed, of course, by DJI Terra software. Over on the right side, you can check the parameters I used, which I had the smoothing disabled, optimized accuracy enabled, and I also have the ground point classification disabled. These are the settings I used when I process point cloud data in the Terra software. I don't enable ground point classification because now I can enable classification inside the Modify software. And it does a lot more because in Terra software, you can only do classification with ground. Now in Modify software, you can do vehicles, dynamic objects, building, vegetations, and custom classes if you want to. The Modify software is great when it comes to the post-processing because it modifies the processed results. Unlike Terra software, you can't really modify points or data you processed. For example, when we're doing urban scanning with these LiDAR data, you will almost impossible to avoid collecting moving vehicles, right, in your LiDAR scan. And in DJI Terra software, there's no way for you to remove data like these or points like these. In addition, you may have experienced like these noise points, like accidentally captured like underneath the ground. And if you're capturing data under high moisture environment or cloudy day, you may have noise points captured on the sky as well. So these kind of little noise points doesn't really affect much when you're doing a small scan, but it would be good to remove those, right? Because after all, this might cause the ground classification algorithm in Terra software misclassify these objects as ground objects. And when it comes to the ground object in Terra software, when you enable the ground point classification, there's only one profile you can set that applies to the entire scan. So what happens if you have a scan and one side of it is extremely flat and the other side has a steep slope or has variation when it comes to the elevation, right? So one profile is not going to work. And when that happens, you kind of have to modify the elevation model, and that's currently available in the Modify software. Okay, enough talking on Terra software, and let's switch to the Modify. So under the Modify software, you just need to create a new project upper right corner, and as you can see, we have 3D mesh and point cloud. I'm not gonna spend much of the time on the 3D mesh modification end. That's a whole new chapter. I'm just gonna cover the point cloud side. So when you select point cloud, this is where you will import the LAS files into the Modify software, and you can also define the storage location for the Modify project. You may ask, can I import LAS file capture from other system? Maybe not drone system even. Can I import like LAS files captured from other systems? The answer is yes. You can import these LAS file into the Modify for modification. And we do provide guide when it comes to Terra software. If you don't know how to extract the LAS file, well, first of all, you need to export the LAS format point cloud from the Terra software in order to get LAS file. And we do have a directory or location where the Terra store these LAS files. But it's shown here as well in case you couldn't find it. And from there, you just select file and select that LAS files processed from Terra software or elsewhere, and select open. That's going to load all the LAS files. Once you own this page and select OK, and it's going to start loading that project. And there we go. The first settings window you're gonna see is the pre-processing window. And these are the algorithm or processes you can apply before you start modifying the model. So as you can see right now, under the pre-processing settings, we have noise deduction, which I like to have that enabled because that automatically remove a lot of noise points underneath the ground for me. We have smoothing and density adjustment. You will find these two settings very, very familiar because they exist in the Terra software. You also have classification, and this is what I was talking about. So instead of just classifying the ground, DJI Modify software does auto classification for these ASPRS standard class for you automatically, including dynamic object. That's our moving cars on the road, right? Wire, vegetation, ground, of course, building, electric tower, and vehicle. And of course, there are a lot more classes in the ASPRS class list. You can do manual classification or manual selection and add those points corresponding to the classification ID if you want to. But these are the classification can be done automatically. The next settings we have is block. So this is for you to define how many blocks you want to separate your model into. So of course, that depends on how much of storage you have, depends on the computation capability from your laptop or computer. Well, in this case, I'm going to select no. And of course, it shows you the coordinate system, export it. That coordinate system is associated to the LAS point cloud. And next, you're going to select process. And once that pre-processing is completed, it's going to load the data. I'm just going to uncheck everything and select process, and for me to load the LAS file real quick. This might take a while, and I'll get back to it once it's finished. Okay, so now we have the point cloud imported. I like to go through the user interface slightly. On the left side, you have content list. You can collapse this if you want to, but you do have options to visually hide these point clouds if you want to. So right now I have a 4 LAS file. As you can see, I can enable them or I can hide them. And once you finish the classification, you're gonna see points get distributed from the never classified, which is all points because I didn't select classification, to some of these classes. So I happen to have the point clouds imported in a different project with the classification enabled, so I can show you how that is look like. So same thing, same for LAS point cloud we imported. But under the ASPRS class, as you can see now, those points get distributed based on different classes, right? So we have vehicle, dynamic object, electric tower, ground, of course, and more. So visually, how you can see these different classes is go to upper right corner. We're going to change from RGB view to class view. And now you can see these points get classified, displayed with different color, right? One thing I really like about DJI Modify software is you can drag to change the opacity of the classified results. So if you want to see the RGB, but still see the classified result, you can kind of set it in the middle. So that way, I can not only see points get classified from the program, but also visually see, for example, like these paint, like white lines and yellow lines, right? So that's classification. Moving forward, we have terrain results. So you have multiple deliverables you can process once you get ground classified. I like to leave this blank until I finish my modification on the ground point, because all these deliverables are going to be rely on the ground point got classified. But you can go to the result settings by clicking this option here, and you do see we have digital elevation model as option for output, contour lines, as well as the grid point and TIM model again, I will just select cancel for now. I'm gonna do my ground classification and modification first before I touch this. And of course, we have point settings. This is where you will import checkpoints. And so that's everything on the left side. I'm gonna collapse that for now, and let's focus everything on the top side. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 selection tools. So these tools is gonna help you select point. And why do you want to select points? Because you want to modify these points, whether assign them to a new class or fix the misclassification, right? And on the right side, we kind of cover the different view, right? We have RGB classification view, we have elevation view, we have intensity, and based on number of returns, flight trajectory, and we also have this switch, which changes between the ortho projection to the perspective projection. I like to use ortho projection a lot because that way the high structure is not blocking anything on the bottom. And on the right side, we have this cube as well. And you can click on this and drag to change the viewing angle. You can also, just like DJI Terra software, you can click and hold your mouse wheel to rotate the model as well. And if you click and hold your right mouse key, you can drag the model around, okay? One thing I like about this cube is you can select and click on these surface of the cube. For example, if I clicked on the blue surface, that's gonna switch me to the top view. And if I'm under ortho projection, this is essentially the ortho map view of the model. And similarly, if I want to filter out noise point, for example, there might be a noise point underneath the surface, right? We can just drag that cube and select, let's say, green or red. That way we're basically having a side view of our model. And as you can see now, already see 2 noise points there. Easier for me to filter out this noise. Yeah, so that is the view changing. Now let me bring back our classification list and let's get started with fixing some classification. I'm gonna change my view from RGB to classification. I'm probably gonna increase the opacity slightly. And let's have a quick look at the classification. So first of all, we want to remove these, right? One technique I really like when it comes to these floating or dynamic object is simply select dynamic object and hide them. Because some of these cars, or if not, most of these cars will get already classified as dynamic object. You just need to hide them. Now, as you can see, the algorithm is not going to be perfect, right? You're still having some points, right? Floating, and here, for example, and here, for example, right? And then you need to do find an adjustment, even here. So these points. So how you can do find an adjustment is by using the selection tool. So within the modify software, we can select hide ground points, right? So now our ground points are gone, right? Leaving us with these floating point. So we're gonna select the first selection tool to show you. So that is our polygon selection. Basically, you just need to create a polygon with any points within that polygon will be selected. And currently it's set to class ground, meaning any point you just selected would get automatically classified to the ground class, which that wasn't right. So we're gonna uncheck this, okay? And we're gonna go to another floating area, or this area these points are misclassified, and we want to select these points. Notice when I uncheck the change class immediately, and now when I finish using the polygon selection tool, these points will get highlighted, like in pink. Let me show you again. Right now it's currently classified as yellow, bright yellow, which is wire. When I select polygon selection, these will get highlighted. Now I can hit backspace to remove these points, or I can right click to my mouse and go to classify and assign these points to a specific class if I want to. I can also use additional selection tools. So the second tool I'd like to show you all is the rectangle selection. Very similar to the first one. You just basically draw a rectangle, and that would select the point within the rectangle. Okay, and similarly, hit backspace, that would remove the point. If you accidentally remove some point, don't panic. Upper right corner, you can select undo, and your point is back. The next one I like to show you all is going to be the single selection. So single selection is not something I use a lot, but basically it gives you like very fine adjustment for selecting a single point. If you want to accumulate your selection, just make sure you under add. So now you're accumulating your selection. And of course, now you can assign it to a different class. Like this is part of the car, so I'm gonna put it under dynamic object and select OK. Now, because the dynamic object is hidden, that's no longer showed on the screen. Yeah, this is for something you like to have fine adjustment. The first selection tool is going to be a brush, right? You can change the size of the brush if you want to as well, and I can enable change class immediately just to save some time. I don't have to confirm every single time. It just automatically put all the points I brushed into the class I assigned to. The next one I like to show you all is the color selection. So this one is a bit unique. So when you want to classify the point based on color contrast, for example, when I switch to RGB, you see these like yellow lane lines got painted on the road. They're on the same surface, because if I switch between RGB to class, there's no way for you to tell and identify them from the class because they're on the same level. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to RGB just to kind of show you better. And I can, for example, classify these yellow lines by click on the yellow. And now that automatically classified it to, dynamic object. I didn't mean to do that, so undo that. I'm actually not going to classify this to a dynamic object. I'm going to create a new class myself. And as you can see, I can create a new class here, and I can select settings and assign a new color. For this one, let me do, why not bright yellow, right? I'm just gonna do bright yellow and select OK. And I am going to change this and rename this to line. Okay, and now I can use the color selection tool and click on the yellow color, and as you can see now that yellow color is getting selected. I can continue by selecting add, just making sure I'm not losing the selection I have already made. Okay, and moving forward. Okay, and you can increase the range if you want to. And now I can set the class to line and select OK. Now that gets classified to line. Now if I switch to class view, as you can see, now these painted lines get classified to a new class. This is very helpful when it comes to classification via color contrast. The next one I like to use is, this is probably the tool I use the most for selection, is the quick selection tool, because it's just so easy. It's picking up the block of the point. Let me go to the, go to this thing I misclassified, right? I did misclassify this as ground. I'm just gonna click on this, and as you can see, when I click on this floating object, it automatically highlights it, and I'm gonna turn this to dynamic object and select OK. Okay, that's gone now, right? So that is the quick selection. I use this a lot, probably the most. The next one we have is structure selection. So this applies better when it comes to the structure surface. For example, here, right? We have the top of the building got misclassified as ground, section of it, right? We can use this structure selection tool, and we're gonna assign the class to building, okay? Now we just need to click on this surface, and as you can see, it automatically detects the surface of the structure, excluding the protrude objects. I can also decrease the tolerance just to make it more accurate if I want to. But once this is selected, I can now select OK, and that classification has been fixed. Okay? So these 7 selection tools can be accessed and quickly switched by using keyboard 1 to 7. So you can use number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as like a shortcut keys on your keyboard for quickly switching these tools. Another scenario here, this is a stadium, for example, here, and if I want to like manually like brush these seats and assign them to a different class, that would take forever, right? So in this case, I'm just gonna use the quick selection and quickly select that area. See, like this. So that saves a lot of time. So selecting the right selection tool is important, okay? The next one I would like to show you, for example, the curb, right? So when it comes to the curb, you may not want to use the quick selection tool. Instead, you can use brush. So I'm gonna enable ground, and I'm gonna enable change class immediately, right? And I'm just gonna brush these misclassification area, and as I brush these automatically gets fixed like that, right? So these curves tend to get misclassified sometimes, so you can use brush to fix them easily. Okay, and what about these like noise points above the ground? They're extremely close to the surface. Like how I'm gonna solve or classify these out, right? That's a unique like a scenario. Like if I experience something like this, I like to remove like noise points away from my surface. Like something I would do is using a vertical profile to enhance the visibility of these noise points and separate them from the surface. So by doing that, I'm gonna change my perspective to top view, of course, ortho. And I am gonna zoom into the area where it has the noise, okay? And some of the noise points got classified to non-ground, which is actually a lot easier because I can just, like I said, turn off the ground point and remove these noise points. But some of the noise point actually got classified on the ground, so they're all together. So when things like that happened, so a technique I like to use is to enable the vertical profile. So that's bottom right corner, there's a vertical profile settings here, and I can drag my intersection line like that. Okay, now you have like an intersection view of the area. You can enable grid line if you want to. You can do measurements here if you want to, like this. by doing a measurement here if you want to. You can also check out the curve if you want to. But anyway, let's say I want to remove the points on the surface, right? So this view gives me a very clear, right, perspective of where these noise points are located. I can use the selection tool. I'm going to use the rectangle selection tool, and I'm going to classify these points to floating or dynamic object. I can now just basically select these noise points directly from the vertical profile view to remove these noise points from my point cloud, like this. And once I finish, I can move to the next step and do the same thing. And as I'm modifying these point cloud, as you can see on top, those get synchronized as well. So this is the method for you to do when it comes to removing noise points manually, of course. Something like that. Okay. Now once I finish that, I can click on the profile to hide the profile. And as you can see now, my noise point is gone from the surface. Okay. Something we need to fix as well is when there's a building, for example. This is a hotel, for example. The hotel has a lot of windows, and these windows are highly reflective, and sometimes it causes issues because you may have some noise points inside got misidentified as points or valid measurements. So as you can see, these are going to be the noise points you actually want to remove. Otherwise, some of them may get classified with false elevation. This is going to cause issue when you output files which relies on the ground surface. So what would be a good or easy way for getting those points removed? So by hiding the building would be the easiest way. But as you may notice, like some of the points have been classified as a building already, which I don't really mind because after all, we're just using the ground points for most of the applications. So in this scenario, for example, I'm just going to hide the building and remove those fault ground points. So I'm going to switch this to top view again, right? And I'm just going to select the polygon selection tool and select these, or should I say isolate these noise points out and remove them. So similarly for these points also. Okay, backspace and remove these. Now, those points will not be used for generating the ground surface nor TIN file. That's pretty much it. When you finish modify the ground classification, the next part for you to do is to define your outputs. So under the terrain results, select that settings here. You can enable these deliverables. I'm just going to select digital elevation model, contour line, the TIN model, as well as the grid of points for output, just for demonstration purpose. I'm going to change the contour line to 1 meter, perhaps, yeah, 1 meter, because this area is relatively flat, and select OK. Okay, so all these results has been processed. As you can see, we're now having the contour line displayed on top of our model, the grid of points, right, displayed on top of our model, as well as our TIN file. Little hard to see, but if I disable the point cloud, you'll be able to see the TIN model here gets displayed as well. Once you visualize and check everything looks good, you can now export these output And that's going to be the upper right corner. Select export output, and you can define the output format of your LAS or different formats if you want to, and select the formats for the grid of points, 10, contour line, digital elevation model, and select OK. There's gonna be a new window pop up for you to set a directory to have the Modify software export out these deliverables. And from there, you just need to import these deliverables into your GIS software or engineering software moving forward. With that being said, that's the DJI Modify when it comes to the point cloud post-processing. And stay tuned. I will see you in the next video.